So I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank Colette and Mark for being available for us. I want to introduce, for those that don't know, Longitude 6. So as you can see, we have Colette and Mark on. They are our global partners. As many of you are aware, Cardinus has the most widely used office ergonomics program globally called Healthy Working, with over 1,000 companies, and many of those are in the Fortune 500 and utilize us in over 190 countries with multiple languages. And in doing so, in springboarding into the industrial program, we wanted to find a partner that kept the same value system that we did, but also made it easy. Had a program that was easy to use. It was seamless. It was smart. But more importantly, when we look at wearables, when we look at video capture, and this is something that Mark had really taught me, is that it's accurate. And Mark and Colette are very good about continuing to research all the technology that's out there. So even if you have questions about technology, let's save that to the end, but let's talk about other technology that's available and how things compare, because they're extremely knowledgeable in all of this. And as you'll find, eventually is they're a bit agnostic to it. So more importantly, in our look, in our feel, in our research, we wanted to find, like I said, a smart, capable, and accurate technology. So today we're going to focus on the human. We're going to focus on the person. So without further ado, Mark and Colette, I want to turn over the webinar to you. Again, make sure everyone on this call, if you have any questions as we go along, just use the Q&A feature. Mark, it's over to you and Colette.
Thanks, Bill. Colette, do you want to say hello, seeing you've been introduced? You can do that.
Hi, I'm Colette Tavik. I'm Director of Customer Engagement and U.S. Operations for Longitude 6. I've been with the company about 6 months, but I have about 7 years experience in the wearable technology industry and another 3 years in safety management and construction. So happy to be here with you today and answer any questions you may have.
My name is Mark Haseman. So we started Longitude 6 a little over 3 years ago. And we've been working through the US in that period, but just starting to really get some momentum now, particularly with Colette on board. And our partnership with Cardinus, as Bill put, is a global partnership. Very, very strong in the UK with the team there, and Bill and Dean, the team in the US, have been really powerful partners for us. So really looking forward to presenting to you today. So I'll just jump into it, Bill. Yeah. So I might just start out by saying I just want to touch on a point because it is important. Bill raised a really nice point about our view on technologies. Our whole business is centered around utilizing technology to advance how things are done for our clients and ultimately potentially your clients, depending on your roles in your businesses. And Longitude 6 is agnostic to technologies. We always will be looking for what is the very best at the time. And ideally we'll get that right and provide that to our clients. And even today and in future series that we present, the technologies we show you, we are not talking about those technologies specifically. So we're not pushing a technology particularly. There's a time and a place for that when and if you're interested. But today's more about understanding a way of utilizing technology in an element of reducing organizational risk and injury to their people. Perfect. I'm not going to go into full PowerPoint screen, sorry, because I actually don't know how to do that on 2 screens. So I'm just going to show this. Hopefully it's large enough for you to see. Again, I think and this isn't an ad for Longitude, this is more about how we apply things and how we think. So it might help you understand where we're coming from as we present to you today. we see the opportunity with technologies as a wonderful way to help manage and support behaviour change, using all the classic cliches around measurable outcomes and so forth. But it really does provide you the ability, technology should provide you the ability to measure what you're doing, and interestingly created a significant degree of accountability to what you're delivered as a client. So if you're a client receiving a service and technology is part of that service, you're going to be able to measure and watch what is delivered to you, so you can make judgments about whether you're getting what you paid for and what you need. But likewise, you could use technologies to measure some of your providers and some of your suppliers and their performance. And even what we're presenting today would be an interesting opportunity for you. Measuring something in itself is not the holy grail of how to make things work. It's what you do with it. And we'll again go through that a little bit today. But if you can aggregate the services that you have in your business, so if you have multiple services and providers in your story of reducing risk, if you could utilize technologies to loop those all together, and I know that's a really powerhouse of Cardinus's, and one of the reasons we're pretty excited about it, being a partner of Cardinus, but to be able to bring information into one field and use that information to keep checking and rechecking and remeasuring is really important. So aggregating services, aggregating the data you've got, looking at your trends, did something work, didn't it work, how can I change it? And then also just validating that everything you're doing is on the right path. If not, make decisions and change. So to us, it's really important, and hopefully today with what you see and more so the application of what you see, not so much the product, you might enjoy that. The approach that we take is very people-centric. So interestingly, today's theme is around people and measuring of people and activities. So it's quite timely. But what we do is we tend to try and help organisations with a lens of the zones that we see people being a pivotal part of the equation. And as that diagram demonstrates what longitude does, and Cardinus, when we're looking at things, we look at the area of pre-employment or before you employ people, or to put it differently, the people you employ. Who are they? What are they functionally able to do? And what are you asking of that person that you employ and what they're able to do? And that's in a very much in a zone of understanding that it's hard to get people at the moment. We have maturing workforces, and the old cliche that everyone's using now is that if they're breathing, we'll employ them, and that's all good. But as long as they've got capacity to do the job safely for you and for them. How do you bring them into the business? So this whole induction piece, how do you bring them in, train them, support them, and educate them to do their job safely according to their functional capability and what they're able to do? In the business, what do you do day to day, month to month to make sure that they're able to stay in their role and ideally for the time that they want to be there? And then also around injury management, which is a big zone and quite complicated. Every country operates so differently in a model. We're across a couple of countries and we see very big differences. But early intervention or first aid, when people go to rehab, how does an organisation manage and understand what's happening in that rehabilitation process? How can they keep a track of it or even drive a different outcome to what they're getting? And then when they do come back to work, what are the mechanisms and how is that done? And there's so many ways that's done that we all experience and all know, but how do you get some validation that the person is right to come back to that job? And if so, doing what? And again, if you can find and utilise technologies to support all of those zones, which is what we try to do, you can start to make decisions and watch what's happening and inform different phases of a person's journey in your business through technology and data. So you can use skill then to actually use the data to make outcomes. What I'd like to do now is I'll show you one technology that measures people. And to do this, what I'd like you to do is, and I'll just move this little thing away for the minute because we're going to look at that in a sec. What I'd like you to do is understand that if, and there are other products out there that do measuring of people and functional analysis, and they are evolving all the time. But we use a product to be able to assess a person's functional capacity to the job they're doing. So what I'd like to do now is show you a few activities and just show you how it's tracked and scored, but then I really want to come to the scoring process and the data. So if we look at a person here doing simple movement, we can see there it's just capturing data. There's nothing, it's measuring the range of movement and so forth. And the idea being that you try to have tests that aren't too intrusive. I have to move this again. So, aren't too intrusive but are capturing data and are able to be replicated quite well. This product in itself, it has a nice reputation for accuracy, but again, it's about how you might or might not utilize that data. I'll show you a couple more. Just very simple movements. And in fact, we're moving more and more to very simple movements so that it can work with aging workforces, people in different jobs, people in different roles, and so forth, which is really important for people being comfortable doing their tests. Obviously, this participant's having little moments. I wouldn't show you a perfect test. It's good to show you one that's struggling a bit. So we'll have a little look at the scoring for a sec, because I think that becomes an important part. This product in particular has some nice standard reports that come out, and we utilise these when we use this product. It does give us the ability to understand a person's different functional capabilities around balance, stability, and dynamic posture. It also does a recording or an estimation of their potential for injury based on their areas of dysfunction. So in this product, you're actually looking at, and if you're looking at this figure here, we can actually look at areas that are replicated with data around mobility and stability, so we can understand a person's actual position and how they can move and how they can't move. There's a lot of data behind all of this, and every product on the planet that's around has a lot of validation of varying degrees and how they validate their measurement process. But again, it's only data, so there are plenty of talented physiotherapists that do functional analysis, and they do that through their skill. This is a product that could actually support that, where the physio could actually use this data.
Hey, Mark, you had shown the exercises. Can you talk about how many there are, how long it takes to get someone to go through all of them, and then also how are you capturing it? Because one of the things we talked about is ease of use, and I think that's an important piece to all of this.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. You can tell Bill's been in a few of my boring presentations, so that's a good question. So look, this test that this product has, we use 10 movement profiles for in the protocols to do testing. It takes around 15 minutes to run a person through the test. You can advance that and do more tests if you like. There are other products around that'll have similar number and a similar time frame to do the testing. So it's all based around an FMS type model. To utilise this product in particular uses an iPad to do the assessment. And there are other products out there that just work off a cell phone or a camera or something similar. So again, quite varied. And we can talk to you about that more should you want to do that. The idea, though, it's really important to be looking for a product or a way of being able to scale. So if you need to establish a centre for testing, then you haven't really achieved the ability to scale quickly or economically. And that's something that I think is becoming more and more evident in our world, particularly where people are looking at how to do remote and inexpensive assessments without expensive equipment. And that's the exciting part. And I think, again, we can talk more about that individually if you choose. Thanks.
Hey, Mark, there was a question about pre-employment, and I answered it saying that we're looking at the functional capacity of the person. So right now we're, in a way, if we already know the job, so we're aligning the person with the job. Can they do the job, or do they need strength and conditioning? Do they need other things to get them ready for the position or for the job? So they'd asked about pre-employment, but can you talk about this not just in a pre-employment way, but also maybe post-offer or promotion, and then also because I think this is a bit more relevant in the US, is in a return to work capacity, because you talked about working with physios. So the reality is if you ask me to pick up a 40-pound box and I have trouble with my right SI joint, if I need that job that day, I'm going to pick it up and do everything I can not to show that I have an issue with my low back. But can you talk about the accuracy of this and also how it works in a pre-employment or post-offer or even return to work capacity? And I think that kind of revolves around the objectiveness of it and the accuracy.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a heap of points there, Bill, which are absolutely right. I think the big thing is that pre-employment testing, so the experience, we're very close to a lot of that in Australia, not as close in the US. And to be frank, there's not a lot. US approach pre-employment testing very differently, if at all in some cases, and the UK likewise. So, but in Australia, the pre-employment tests are not cheap. They have a medical and a functional element, and the functional element, we all the time get told that basically a pre-employment functional test is pointless because very few people have failed on the basis of their functional capacity. And to Bill's point, which is 100% right, if you want a job, you're going to pick up a carton and put it somewhere, even if you are compensating significantly. And compensating is not an unusual thing. People do that. Athletes do it all the time. They've got injuries and they still play. So workers can do that. But are they compensating beyond what they're able to sustain in a job and so forth? They're the things that organisations need to know. But the key is, even if you do know someone has a functional or a dysfunction in the way they manage their movement or their ability to do something, that is not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that it might trigger you to look at where you put that person or what you do to support that person. Because ultimately, the person could be absolutely brilliant for the job culturally and every other element of their being, but they're not able to physically do the job at the level you wish they could do, but you might be able to compensate for that and create workarounds. So again, data helps with that, because if you know what you're dealing with, you can make plans and you can support that person and your organisation better. So I think that's the key. I think if you're going to use technologies as a way, or even not technologies, if you're going to use a physiotherapist's opinion to not bring someone into your business, you might be limiting your opportunities down the track anyway. And same with technology. So don't know if I answered that, Bill, but it sounded good.
Yeah, I think you did. And maybe address it a bit on the idea that, because there's some people on the call that recognize that they have smaller sites, right, where they're fairly remote. They might have 5 to 10 employees. You're probably not going to have a physio there. You may not even have an on-site or near. You're not going to have on-site. You probably won't have a near-site clinic. So how could you deploy this technology efficiently to help in that situation for understanding someone's functional capacity from a remote aspect?
So we know, and in fact, we're working through a process ourselves now about where programs and data can be moved between a hub or an information centre to a cell phone, for argument's sake, via a link or an app. And that could be used to actually carry out assessments, and that could be used to capture data. The product I just showed you then actually is an iPad, and we in America now we move product around quite inexpensively and quickly for people to use. So it's a bit like a loan system, and that can be done as well. But I think the way the world's going and the way things are moving things around through apps and applications like that become very, very exciting, because you can talk about pre-employment tests, you can talk about monitoring people's functional improvement through exercise plans, even rehab and being at home and doing testing and going back to a clinician with that. It's all there now. And it'll keep getting better and better. So I think that's what we should be looking for. I think the days of big expensive cameras and going to labs and centres to get tested, they're going to keep diminishing. And on that note, I mean, we have a wonderful example. Bill, you touched on a point around fitness for work and other applications for these sort of technologies. I think the piece that's exciting for us and we're finding is that pre-employment is a hot button, and some people are really looking at that. And in fact, they're re-looking at that now with a different lens lately for different reasons. One of the things we're finding with functional testing is we're able to use it to actually help design fitness for work plans for workers. And because of the way we can do it with technology, it's quite inexpensive, but it's also easy to do in remote locations. So we've got a client that I'd like to share a little video with for you that they're doing of a fitness work program. It's a little organisation in Tasmania in Australia. They've only got 30 employees in total. They've only got 20 odd on the ground. And I'll show you the video and then we can have a little talk about what we saw. I'll just give you a bit of background. Small organisation, known them for about 2.5 or nearly 3 years. They're doing a project of fitness for work for their people over 12 months. And they're doing it in the sense that they want to understand how, and they're happy with the evolution of people buying into it. They're not expecting everyone to be quick at adopting this internally. And part of the journey is to work out how to create better engagement for their people as we go. So seriously mature and professional approach. They're not unrealistic and really, really cool people. So I'll start it just to check the sound. If you can just confirm you can hear.
Thanks everyone for coming along today to launch our Fit for Work, Fit for Life program. It is really exciting and it's really beneficial, and hopefully at the end of the 12 months program you'll see some real benefits to the way you feel, the way you move.
This isn't just manual handling training. This isn't about how to lift and how to bend and how to pick things up. This is about you understanding how your body moves and where some of those limitations of your body might be.
So you have something to do with Ali as well, and I oversee the program. Not just about scanning or assessing you, but coming out into the field, seeing you do your work, providing adjustments and interventions to what you do day to day. One more, we'll be good.
As an example, what we talk about when we're talking about being healthy, not for just work, but also at home as well, because you'd be surprised on what those little things can actually do to you mentally when you can't do that.
That relationship that you have with Simon is a private, confidential relationship. So anything you share with him, it's like a doctor-patient relationship. He'll use that information for the purpose of helping you, but that doesn't go back to the company.
Because I was involved heavily with Kathleen, and I thought I'll put in 100% effort into the exercise routines and stay with the app and everything like that, and I can't recommend it enough. And the best thing, all the information that these guys are offering is free. Like, imagine having to pay out of your own pocket for an exercise physiologist.
Really implore you to embrace this technology and to buy in, because it's not just for us, but it's for future workers and future generations. And who knows, we might do something now that impacts the way that our children come through and the way that they then return home safer as well. So, that's a really important thing for us. How do you think that went, Kath?
I thought it went really well. The other thing I want to add into it, I want to do a survey.
Yeah.
So that we can actually capture, where people are at this stage and, in 3 months' time, 6 months, 12 months' time.
Yeah.
So, and that will help to identify, mental health improvement.
Our Fit for Work, Fit for Life program uses cutting-edge laser movement camera technology under the supervision of our exercise physiologists to put our employees through a range of soft movement and exercise to identify any potential problems or weak spots with their body. The exercise physiologist analyses this data and comes up with a range of soft exercises and stretches to improve not only their potential to reduce injuries, but to make sure they are fit for work and fit for life moving forward.
So there we go. I think Bill or everyone in attendance, I think to just talk about there's a journey for that group. They've started out, they started, as you saw there, everyone talking that except for our team, Reese and Ali and Simon. Kathleen works for Water Industries. The chap talking mostly, Peter owns a business. I mean, they're just wonderful people. But we've got issues trying to keep them engaged and all the stuff you'd expect. But it's part of the journey. But we're really excited about the opportunity. But again, without data, and I'm going to show you how we're trying to keep them engaged, without data, it would be very hard to give these people some measure of their improvement. So their ability to stay interested and stay retained to the thing diminishes if it's just conversation, if that makes sense. So what I'll do is I'll show you quickly the way we actually help hold these people into the system. We've got we have a partner in the US actually that has helped us build our engagement product and our dashboard. We're calling, this is all being launched now, but it's a way of actually giving measurement to the organisation on their people and what's going on in the business. And then it's also a way of communicating with the people out in the field. So I'll show you that very quickly. Basically, we're able to look at how a person is progressing through their testing protocols and periods. So over a period of time, we can look at the scoring. So not dissimilar to what you saw just before. We use an app to communicate with these people. I've got to expand that somehow. So basically we can measure, we've got everything here. I'll move this to the side. We've got this dashboard where we're able to talk to what's happening with a person in our team. And then we also have the app that's on a cell phone. And again, the worker or the person or the participant will have a look at their exercises of what they're going to need to do for the day. When they've done them, they record that they've been able to finish them, and they might write up some notes on how it went or not. They're then able to, you might want to send them documentation, something to read, something to keep them engaged. There might be an internal competition. I know the group we've got are actually offering little incentives, vouchers to local stores, and even considering now giving them a day of leave a year if they achieve a certain level of achievement. to try and get them more engaged. So basically, you're able to engage. But again, it's all about technology. It's all about being able to measure and work out if it's actually working, and if it's not, do something about it.
Hey, Mark, we have a question. Do you mind if I think it's pertinent. Do you mind if we address it right now?
Please, please.
The question is, the presented data only included generic range of motion and balance, however, didn't test conditioning or strength. How does it assist with manual nature of the jobs? So can you address the conditioning or strength?
Yeah, it's an absolutely perfect question, actually. So what we do is we're adding in those elements on top of the functional movement. So to do strength testing, and even aerobic testing. And again, it depends on what the magnitude of the testing protocol you want to do. But we're building that into our own products, and we've got some clients or some providers that are in our world that have already had those testing protocols. So again, they're already doing it. Some people are already doing those tests. What we're talking about is using technology where you can. So again, you can do technology testing for heart rate and on all of that, but you can also do it for functional. So it's about how do you bring technology in to support what you currently do. Same as an ergonomist. An ergonomist uses a range of tools now. Technologies we can show you next time we get together actually support that process, so that it's not to substitute or remove. So,
yeah, thank you.
Pleasure. What I'd like to do, and I'm very mindful of time, is again just focus on, if we just look at a high level, the benefit of technologies can be that you can have remote access and get information without actually having to be there or have people come to you. You have centralised management and standardised approach, so you don't have to rely on opinions of people being the same, because that's difficult to achieve. You can actually use data to create outcomes that are centralised, and you can manage them. That Fitness for Work program we do from one location, and we can cover a wide geographic spread with that. There is the potential of enhanced engagement of people. And by having data and information presented properly, and it can be inexpensive. And just to wind up, to give you a sense of how this can be seen and adopted, we've got a group in Australia Post, obviously, because it's written up there. They started back in 2017, and they were using very much the typical approach of having people come on site using spreadsheets and measures and so forth. And in 2018, they had 9 sites operating and this number of people going. In 2019, they introduced some technologies, and one of them being the one you saw today, and the other one we'll talk to another time. Today, being 2023, is very different, but in 2022, they now reached over 150 sites. And they're doing something like 200,000 assessments a year, which is phenomenal. So their adoption of technologies has been really interesting. The success on site because of it, it's not, I wish I could say it's been 100% amazing. It hasn't. 30 or 40% of the sites have been really, really good. Others have been moderate, and a couple haven't progressed at all. And again, a lot of that's around culture and so forth. And that's the opportunity. But that's basically what you can think of and enjoy out of technology, the goods and the bads, hopefully. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, can you talk a little bit before you wrap up? You've talked about success in Australia. We recognize that you're doing quite a bit of the work for us in the UK as well, but can you talk about the US and some of the clients you have here and success that you found utilizing this program, or success that they have found utilizing the program?
So we've got a couple of providers, and I don't have their permission to use their names, so I won't do that. But we have got a couple of providers that do use one or two of the technologies that we've brought to them. And that's provided, they use them very differently to what we do, interestingly, which is, again, is what we can do with technology. We've been very fortunate to win a wonderful engagement with Zurich in the US. And that's probably the epitome of scalability and inexpensive delivery. Because of technology, we're able to replicate a service nationally in the US through technology deployment to the point where we've achieved a contract with them, which is really exciting. So in the US and particularly through Cardinus now, we've had some nice successes with Cardinus and some clients as well, and looking forward to enjoying some more soon.
I appreciate that, and obviously Colette is here to support that growth and that success in the US. Mark, I appreciate the fact that you also showed with the water company in Australia that it's holistic, right? It's not just a person, it can go all the way down to the family members. But to me, because MSD is in the top 3 for a lot of companies on the health insurance side, both in frequency and cost, and not just on the workers' comp side, it means it's not just the industrial or non-office employees that are suffering, but it's the office employees as well. And this can work quite well with the office employees with getting ahead of MSK issues or MSD issues, and including making sure that they have the right strength and conditioning programs as well.
Yeah, I agree. And for us, it's exciting too, because in Australia now we're starting to see a lot of interest in the Cardinus product, the office product. But generally you do your ergonomic adjustments, but then it gets back to people. If people aren't conditioned to be able to do sustained positions or repetition or strength activities, as they get older, the opportunity is to help them. And I think it is a very humanistic approach. Looking at that video, I still get goosebumps when I see it, because you've got a whole bunch of Australians. We're not all like that, but they're all watching those people. They're all people. They'll all go home. They've all got jobs to do, but they've all got lives to live. And I think to have an employer such as Peter prepared to spend money to help his people, both for his own benefit, obviously with injuries, but also from a lifestyle point of view, is pretty impressive. So I think there's an opportunity for staff retention, staff engagement, employee positioning, employer positioning. They're all there. That's all part of it.
Yeah, can I add something to that, actually? Because Mark's covered a lot of really good points, but from the training side of things, because I'm a trainer and I go on site and I work with management and employees, the technology has to be easy to use. And I think that's one thing that Longitude 6 has been very good at in identifying, is technologies that it's easy to train people on. The workers aren't intimidated by them. And it goes a long way, because even in that video, you see no one was afraid to do the exercises. No one was afraid to do their functional testing. It wasn't going to be hard or anything. So we really make a point of going in and making it fun and easy to use, so you can get the most out of it.
Yeah, great points. Yeah.
Yeah, and even with your app, you can demonstrate compliance too, that they are doing exercises, and that also it becomes just a really nice communication tool. I like the fact that you're making sure that the employee is hydrating, right? But that is not the only thing you can do. The company can push out wellness or other messages even safety messages to the employees at that point in time. So it really becomes a nice communication tool, not just demonstrating compliance with the strength and conditioning or strength and stretching programs.
I also love and we've got an amazing example of this in New Zealand, but I also love the concept of job rotation, which I hear people talk about all the time. And I'm fascinated the science to that, or lack of. But if you could bring technologies to help support where are you putting people and on what premise and for how long, that can get very exciting as far as injury reduction and retention and able to cope with long shifts and so forth. So I think that is also another piece that's still to be explored better. But we're really enjoying some of the early, they're looking at that zone. So I agree.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Mark and Colette, are you okay if we open it up to questions now? or comments from all the participants or attendees at this point?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm going to turn it on for everyone. So if you have any questions, just please let us know. I think everyone's kind of muted along the way, but I'm going to open it up to the field. You're also allowed to use the Q&A if you don't want people to hear your voice. I can see that everyone is muted as I click allow to talk. So forgive me for not knowing Zoom very well.
You're doing well, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, one at a time, right?
Yep. It's always a good sign if there's no questions. That's the way I look at it. I think is the alley that's on the screen, is that alley from longitude 6? No. Thought it might have been one of our team.
Yeah. I do want to thank everyone for being on the call today. Colette, is there anything else that you might want to add? I know you talked about ease of use and easy to deploy. Is there anything else from a US standpoint that kind of comes to mind, especially with your experience in construction and with safety and training?
Let me see. Just that as a company here at Longitude 6, we're very supportive of any interest you have in our products and our offerings, and that we'll be there every step of the way with you, because sometimes technology can be scary, and we'll do everything we can to make the process as easy as possible, and just be there with our support, whatever you want to go forward with.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Mark, as we kind of wrap up, do you have any final thoughts before we let everyone go, and maybe give people a couple minutes back today?
Yeah, so look, firstly, thank you, Bill and the team at Cardinus for inviting us to this, and everyone attending. It's lovely. What I'd like to throw out there is that you may be looking at technologies that have nothing to do with what we do and how. I have no issue whatsoever and I enjoy it if we were to have a conversation, if you wanted to float some ideas and concepts or issues or what you're having working through without an expectation of it going anywhere from a business point of view. We'll learn from that conversation, and we're totally open to that. It's a big world out there, so hopefully we can all help each other. So thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Mark, Colette, thank you so much for your time, for your knowledge, for taking time to, put all of that onto us. And I for everyone on the call today, thank you for your time. We hope you join us for part 2 in 30 days, and then in part 3 with panel discussion 30 days after that. So thank you everyone for your time. You can always reach us by email or by cell number if you have any further questions, always on the other end of the line to address anything that you may have. So thank you to everyone. Have a great rest of your day. And we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.